Welcome back to the Healthcare Nurses Network podcast, where nurses connect, communicate, and collaborate to improve patient care and transform their careers. This is episode 5 of our 10-part series on case management, and today, we are addressing a growing concern in nursing: burnout. Nurses enter this profession with a passion for patient care, but the reality of long shifts, overwhelming workloads, and inefficient processes can lead to frustration, exhaustion, and even career dissatisfaction. The question is, how can we prevent burnout while ensuring high-quality patient care? The answer may be in case management. Case management helps nurses regain control over their practice, reduce stress, and find renewed purpose in their roles by improving care coordination, streamlining workflows, and distributing tasks appropriately. In today's episode, our hosts, James Carter, BSN, RN, an ICU nurse, and Emily Ramirez, MSN, RN, a nurse manager, will explore how case management can reduce burnout and improve job satisfaction, the power of better task distribution in nursing workflow, how case management fosters a greater sense of fulfillment in nursing practice, practical strategies for integrating case management principles into everyday care. They will also break down key insights from Dr. Nicholas Abella's article, which highlights how case management is not just about patient outcomes, it is also about protecting and empowering nurses in their careers. And as always, we will leave you with an actionable takeaway: implement case management strategies to distribute roles among your healthcare team, ensuring a more balanced and efficient nursing environment. Burnout should not define a nurse's career. Let's explore how case management can be the solution.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Healthcare Nurses Network podcast. We're here to help you not just survive, but thrive in your nursing career. And today we're going to be talking about something that I know is a big deal for a lot of you: burnout. And specifically, we're going to be diving into how case management can be a real game changer when it comes to dealing with burnout and boosting job satisfaction.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of nurses just kind of accept burnout as part of the job, but research shows that case management can actually really change that and make it possible to have a more sustainable and enjoyable career.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. Nursing is so rewarding, but it is demanding.
Yeah.
Long hours, emotionally intense situations. You're constantly having to solve problems. It's easy to see how burnout becomes an issue. And it's not just about us either. It affects patient care too.
Absolutely. Studies have shown that hospitals with high rates of nurse burnout see a lot more medical errors. Some studies show it can be as high as 20%. And that's not even considering the impact on things like staff turnover and just the overall mood.
Right. So it's super important to address burnout for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And that's where case management comes in. But I think for those who aren't familiar, we need to sort of break it down. What does that actually look like? What is case management?
So basically, it's a way to organize and coordinate patient care. So it's not all falling on individual nurses. Imagine, instead of each nurse trying to do a million things at once on their own, there's a system in place that's more collaborative.
Okay, so give me a picture here. Are we talking like a dedicated case manager on every floor? How does this actually play out in a busy hospital?
Ideally, yeah. Having a dedicated case manager can make a big difference. They kind of become that go-to person for coordinating the different parts of a patient's care, working with specialists, planning for when they leave the hospital, trying to anticipate any problems that might come up. Basically, making sure things run smoothly.
Yeah, that sounds like it would really take a lot of pressure off bedside nurses.
Exactly. It frees up bedside nurses to spend less time on admin stuff and more time doing what they're passionate about, actually taking care of patients. Think about how much easier your day would be if you weren't constantly chasing down paperwork or trying to set up appointments with a bunch of different specialists.
That makes a lot of sense. But I know there are a lot of nurses listening right now thinking, my hospital doesn't have dedicated case managers. What can I do?
That's a great question. Even if there's not an official case manager role, you can still use those same principles in your everyday work.
So give me an example. What would that look like?
Okay, let's say you're working on a discharge plan. Instead of rushing around at the last minute, start using a checklist to make sure everything is ready to go before the patient is supposed to leave. Are all their medications filled? Do they have their follow-up appointments scheduled? Do they have a way to get home? By being proactive and organized, You can avoid that stress of waiting until the last minute.
So even small changes like that can actually make a real difference.
Definitely. It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
I love that. And for those of you who want to learn more about how to make these changes, check out healthcarenurses.net. We've got templates, checklists, and tons of advice on how to get started. So now, let's say I'm a nurse leader listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds good, but how do I even start?
Well, the first thing is to really look at what's happening with your team.
Yeah.
See how the workload is divided. What are the things that always seem to cause the most burnout? You can even do a simple anonymous survey to get feedback from your nurses about their experiences and where they're feeling the most strain.
So it's all about gathering information.
Exactly. You need to understand the specific challenges your team is facing before you can start finding solutions.
Right, that makes sense. But let's be honest, setting up a whole new system, even just a small pilot program, takes time and resources. How do you convince hospital administrators who are already stretched thin that this is a good investment?
You have to make a strong case, and that often means speaking their language. Data. When you can show them how case management is actually going to improve things for the hospital, things like patient outcomes, readmission rates, even the hospital's bottom line, it becomes a much easier sell. It's about showing them the return on investment, not just for the nurses, but for the whole system.
So data is our friend here. And I imagine that those positive results you get, you can then use them to make the case for expanding the program, right?
Exactly. Start small, get some good evidence, and then use that to get more people on board with making it bigger.
Okay, so let's actually talk about putting this into action. You mentioned a 3-step process earlier. Can you walk us through that?
Of course. So the first step is to really take a look at how the workload is spread out among your team. You want to figure out what tasks are consistently causing the most burnout. Are there things that you could streamline or share, by working together more?
So really just pinpoint those areas where the pressure is the highest.
Exactly. Then step 2 is where you actually start putting those case management strategies into place based on what you learned from that first step. This might mean giving people specific roles within the team, or delegating certain tasks, or maybe setting up a more structured process for things like discharge planning.
So it's all about building a system where the work is more balanced and nobody feels like they're constantly drowning.
Yeah. It's about working smarter, not harder as a team. And then the third step, this is really important, is to regularly evaluate and adjust. Check in with your nurses, get their feedback, and be open to making changes along the way. What works in one place might not work perfectly somewhere else, so you have to be flexible.
It's about constantly looking for ways to improve the system and support the nurses as best as possible.
I like how you put that.
And remember, you don't have to start from scratch here. There are a lot of resources out there that can help you.
That's where healthcarenurses.net comes in again.
Right.
You'll find templates, checklists, real examples from other nurses who have done this successfully. It's a really great source of information.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed or just need some ideas, definitely check out the website.
We're all in this together. Now, I know we've talked a lot about how this benefits nurses, but I want to come back to the impact on patient care. How does case management actually lead to better outcomes for patients?
That's a great question. I mean, we kind of know that when nurses are less stressed and they have more support, they're able to provide better care. But is there data to prove that?
There is. Studies have shown again and again that there is a link between lower burnout rates for nurses and better results for patients. Things like fewer patients being readmitted to the hospital, fewer mistakes with medication, and higher patient satisfaction scores.
So it really is a win-win.
Exactly. And that brings us back to something we talked about before, this idea that burnout is just part of being a nurse. We need to challenge that.
Yeah, it's almost become like a badge of honor to be overworked and exhausted.
Yeah.
But we need to change that way of thinking.
It's not about celebrating being overworked. It's about recognizing that when we take care of ourselves, we're actually better able to take care of others.
It's not selfish to set boundaries, to speak up for yourself, and to ask for help when you need it. It's actually really important for being able to provide good patient care.
I completely agree. And that's where case management comes in. It's not a magic solution, but it gives us a way to work smarter, not harder, and to use our knowledge and skills as a team to create a system that's better for everybody.
It's about working together, not against each other, and understanding that as nurses, we deserve to thrive, not just survive.
That's the key, isn't it? Thriving, not just surviving.
And that goes for everyone in healthcare. Bedside nurses, nurse leaders, administrators.
We all have a part to play in making a work environment where nurses are valued and supported. Because without nurses, the
Right.
healthcare system just wouldn't work.
It really is a team effort. So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into case management, it's the one thing you really want listeners to take away from this.
If there's just one thing you remember from today, it's that burnout doesn't have to be a given. We can change that story. Case management is one way to create a work environment where nurses can thrive, not just survive.
I love that. Reclaiming that joy and passion for nursing. So for our listeners who want to learn more about how to actually make case management happen in their own workplace, where can they go?
Healthcare Nurses Network has a ton of resources on case management, practical tips, templates, real stories from nurses who've been there.
Awesome. So head over to healthcarenurses.net and check it out. We're here to support you.
Absolutely. We're here every step of the way to help you build a more sustainable and rewarding nursing career.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. This has been a really insightful conversation.
It was my pleasure. And remember, you are valuable, you are capable, and you deserve to thrive.
And to all of our amazing listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to the Healthcare Nurses Network podcast. We'll see you next time.